Welcome back to Behind the Caution Tape. I'm your host, CrashLit. There was a lot of news this past week in USC athletics, a lot coming up this week. And yes, I'm back in California for the weekend. Needed to get a few things fully squared away before my Cosmic Baseball tour started. So I actually managed to make it out to a couple games this weekend. Made it to the men's basketball game against Nebraska on Saturday and women's basketball on Sunday against UCLA. So shout out to Woohoo Sue and Danielle Duran for the courtside seats for that. But before we obviously end everything, be sure to check out my new merch line, CrashLit Forever. And be sure to also like, comment, and subscribe to the show. Be sure to follow on audio. And if you're a video person, follow my YouTube channel at CrashLit. Follow me personally on social media at CrashLit. That's you can see updates for things like when I can suddenly make it to a game if I'm in town or if a USC is playing wherever I'm based at the time. So that's pretty much everything going on with me. Then also be sure to catch me on Tuesday nights on The Voice of College Football with Matt Zemek, Ethan Inman, and Nolan Ezethez, 7 p.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. So now we're going to get into news. And normally, I know we start with football. And we're going to talk a little bit of football today because obviously there's been news with the combine and all that. But big story that broke yesterday right around tip-off of the women's basketball game. Chad Baker-Mazara is no longer with the USC men's basketball program. It was announced in a statement yesterday that he is off the team. And honestly, while definitely Baker-Mazara had a personality for sure, it just seemed like the way I read it, and obviously what was reported with Brian Karchi was saying, it was just not one thing, but just a cumulative pileup of issues that must just reach a breaking point, I think, after yesterday in the Nebraska game when he took a hard fall and then after coming back just opted to told the coaches he couldn't go back in. So that had something to do with the fact that he got drafted in the Puerto Rican League, which I think it's out where he went, he probably has a 6-figure income or something, maybe trying to protect that. I'm not sure, but definitely very interested to want to know his side of the story too, because obviously USC just put out the brief statement saying that he was off the team, and when pushed for comment, Kristen Keller just responded to text messages from the Associated Press saying that USC just didn't have anything further to say. So pretty much, yeah. But in the lead up to it, we'll get into the games because obviously, despite going out, Baker-Mazara still played a big impact in those games despite the losses. I mean, we'll start with the UCLA loss. The Trojans lost 81-62 in Westwood on Tuesday. Baker-Mazara led with 25 points and 8 rebounds, and Jacob Kofi led with 4 assists. Then USC got some early momentum, especially with how Baker-Mazara was playing early in the game. But then kind of faltered down the stretch with UCLA taking control late in the first half and then carried it the rest of the way. And then on Saturday, my parents actually came. A lot of Husker fans were at Galen Center to see USC lose 82-67 to 12th-ranked Nebraska. Baker-Mazara once again leading with 14 points. Jaden Brownell pulling down 5 rebounds to lead the way there. And Elijah Arenas leading with 4 assists. And then USC was up 5 at the break and then did a good job, I thought, in that first half. But then after Baker-Mazara went down and didn't return, it just USC kind of collapses. Nebraska really pulled it together after halftime. Obviously, that was definitely tough to see. I know Baker-Mazara took some criticism for him, Rodney Rice, and someone else sitting courtside, kind of where Sue's seats are actually for women's games, but they've kind of always been doing that, and it sounds like that was just a lack of space. Although hard to tell exactly just everything because of what happened. So, but definitely, yeah, brutal for USC. I mean, obviously, I get that it had to happen. I mean, his name's fully off the website. It's fully off. It's not just we saw the stuff, everything during tip-off, but it's definitely not good, especially when you consider that Elijah Arenas, for those of you watching, I'm pulling up a photo I got of him at the women's basketball game yesterday against UCLA in a boot. And he was looking like he was in a little discomfort. I was wondering why they didn't pull him, but he ultimately stayed in. I'll give him credit for that he played through it, but the fact that he's now in a boot is not a good sign. So not only is Baker-Mazara is off the team, especially with just USC in this 5-game losing streak in a total swoon right now. And I think really just, comes down to obviously Arenas is out. So it's, everyone else really have to step up. So we'll see what happens. I'm trusting Eric Musselman to make the right move with this. But at the same time, it's definitely a blow when it's, you obviously have one of your promising freshmen go down, your leading scorer off the team now. So what's going to happen here is definitely, a tough situation for USC. But hopefully this does, give confidence to everyone else. So we'll see what happens with all of that. So definitely a tough situation for sure, especially seeing Arenas out. Not leaves questions to what's he going to do? Is he going to play this week and all that? So up next for the Trojans, they travel to Washington on Wednesday. The Huskies are 14-15 overall, 6-12 in Big Ten play. That'll be on Big Ten Network at 7:30 before having a rematch against UCLA at home at Galen Center on Saturday on Fox Sports 1 at 6 p.m. The Bruins are 19-10 overall, 11-7 in Big Ten play. So yeah, USC lost both of these games the first time, and then they need to come ready to play and build on momentum, especially as it now seems like the Big Ten tournament is the only way for winning the Big Ten tournament, or at least making a deep run is the only way USC is going to get into March Madness, which really, obviously has been, as I think they've had their chances, but they've just seen it dwindle down. And obviously, Elijah Arenas' dad, Gilbert Arenas, had a crazy video yesterday, just completely ripping USC for their decision for Baker-Mazara leaving the team. So we'll see what happens, but obviously, like I said, it's a blow, but it helps the team just from a culture standpoint. I guess I can get behind it, but we'll just see. I mean, I just really want to, see how this goes. So I think we're really going to get some answers about really how Baker-Mazara's impact was. And this wasn't even the first time he's really been kind of, seen hasn't started due to he's had some injuries this year. Obviously, times where he just didn't start just due to struggling in Big Ten play, but still, obviously, it's definitely, I'm supporting the decision. It's definitely tough to see it happen the way it did. So those are my thoughts there. So yeah, now we'll move on to women's basketball, where the Trojans started the week on the road. They lost 85-82 at Penn State. Kara Dunn led with 24 points and 6 rebounds, and Jazzy Davidson led with 5 assists. And USC was in control for most of the first 3 quarters, but then just struggled just collapsed in the fourth quarter and allowed Penn State to get back in the game and take the lead and ultimately win it. So it was a tough one to watch. And then Trojans then lost 73-50 to second-ranked UCLA yesterday on senior day. Davidson led with 12 points. Laura Williams led with 7 rebounds, and London Jones led with 3 assists against her former team. So USC, and I will say one thing about the UCLA fans, when USC announced London Jones for senior day, I will respect that even the Bruins fans, for as much as I knew they'd boo her once the game started, they actually did, applaud for her, which you do have to respect. But UCLA started strong, was able to execute well despite USC really just trying to really just restrict Lauren Betts, which they did a good job of, but everyone else stepped up. So you got to give the Bruins credit there in how they performed. So USC finishes the regular season 17-12 on a 3-game losing streak, 9-9 in Big Ten play. They got tied 9th in the conference and will clinch the 9 seed in the Big Ten tournament. So up next, they'll face 8th seeded Washington. The Huskies are 20-9 on the year, 10-8 in conference. That'll be in the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis. That'll start Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and with win, USC will face UCLA again. So USC, obviously, so USC obviously is kind of a gauntlet. They got to face UCLA if they win on Friday, and then they'll face semifinals, probably be Michigan or Iowa likely, and then obviously the final on Sunday. So tough bracket they drew, but USC, I think, if they can just find that momentum they have in that 6-game losing streak they had prior to this 3-game, 6-game, if they can recapture that momentum from the 6-game winning streak they had prior to the 3-game losing streak they are currently on, this team can make a run, I think, in my opinion. So very excited for that. So now we'll get to our football news this week. Obviously, big thing that came out last week that I didn't get around to highlighting was Tobias Raymond is reportedly going to be taking reps at center with spring ball starting tomorrow. So I'm just wondering, what does that mean for Killian O'Connor? Because I thought O'Connor did a great job. Yeah, he was injured, but we'll just see. Is this just like a backup plan? But I just wondered, do you really want to destroy the continuity, especially when you have a full 5-man offensive line that's all coming back? So I'm just wondering, is that something you really want to try to mess with? So we'll just see how it goes. But just for me, it seems a little bit like it's undermining O'Connor, but hopefully, it all works out. And maybe I'm a little biased towards Killing because, I've known him for a minute, good friend. And, like you got to respect the story. Went from a walk on all the way and beat out DeAndre Reed last year for that starting job. So you just have to respect what the kid did, what that guy did to be a starter at USC. So also the other thing I do want to talk a little bit about is just the players that took part in the NFL Combine last week. You had Anthony Lucas and Eric Gentry, Mario Ramsey, Bishop Fitzgerald, Lake McCree, and Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. So obviously all those guys, wishing them nothing but the success. Sounds like Jacoby Lane actually improved his draft stock this week. So really excited to see where these guys all land in the draft and those who do. So wishing all the Trojans who are trying to go pro the best of luck. So now move on to baseball, who got a 4-0 sweep of Cal Poly from Thursday through Sunday, up in slow too. They were ranked 25th, probably going to move up after that. So they got a 4-0 win on Thursday. Chase Harrell doing a great job on the mound, 5 innings pitched, 2 hits allowed, 2 walks, 5 Ks. And Avery Covarrubias going 2 for 4 with 2 runs, a triple, walk, and 2 stolen bases. Saturday got a 6-0 win in 11 innings. The bats really coming alive in that 11th. Mason Edwards doing a great job on the mound, going 7 innings, no hits, 4 walks, and 11 strikeouts. And then Jack Basir and Maddox Risky both going 1 for 5 with 2 RBIs each and a run. And then Basir also having a double. Then USC had a dominant 16-2 win on Saturday behind 7 innings from Grant Gavell, 4 hits, 2 runs allowed, and no walks and 6 strikeouts. And then Maximo Martinez going 4 for 5 and Maddox Risky going 5 for 6. So impressive game from the Trojans there. And it didn't look like they called it a run rule, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I've always wondered how that works. It must be maybe the home team's rules or conference rules apply if that's the case. So I'll have to look into that one because that one kind of caught me by surprise a little bit, I'll be honest. And then finally on Sunday, USC on 8-6 win in 11 innings. Slow game. USC was up. It was a slow game for the start, but then obviously USC really was able to get it done in extras again. So Andrew Johnson going 6 2/3 innings, 4 hits, a run, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. And behind the plate, Adrian Lopez went 2 for 5 with an RBI, a run, and a stolen base. So a lot of different lineups that Andy Stankwicks ran out this weekend for the Trojans. So I think they're trying to still see their depth and what they got. So excited to see kind of how this lineup settles. Seems like kind of the top 4 of Avery Covarrubias, Isaac Cadena, Adrian Lopez, and Kevin Takeuchi. That seems pretty set. And the rest of it seems like it's pretty much seems like no one else is really too set in stone. So really interested to see how the rest of that goes and what that's going to look like for the rest of the season. So men's volleyball, after 2 weeks off, or over 2 weeks off, will return to action tomorrow night to face UCLA. The Trojans are 8-1 on the year and 1-0 in MPSF play, an early conference win at Vanguard. So host UCLA, the likely number 1 ranked UCLA, on Tuesday. That'll be at 7 p.m. on the Big Ten Network at Galen Center. And then at UCLA on Friday, that'll be at 7 p.m. on Big Ten Plus. The Bruins are 14-0 overall and 3-0 in MPSF play. So it's a big series for USC, who has not played in over 2 weeks, in part due to the NIL tournament that was supposed to take place in Anaheim for, obviously my job and everything. Everything, happened. Everything, just USC then had to then obviously USC just wasn't able to secure new opponents, so definitely USC just unable to play there. So we'll see what happens with all of that. But definitely at the same. But yeah, so hopefully USC is able to come ready to play against UCLA. Now moving on to beach volleyball, is 4th ranked as of now. They're now 8-2 on the season. Went 4-0 in the battle of Los Angeles, where in the games they hosted. So USC got a 5-0 win against CSUN, 5-0 wins against CSUN and Pepperdine on Friday, and then a 4-1 win against Cal Poly and a 5-0 win against Concordia on Saturday. So yeah, moved to 8-2 on the season. So up next for them as they will remain at home for one more weekend. They play CSUN again and Stetson on Tuesday. The Matadors are 0-5. Stetson is 7-1. And then they co-host the MPSF Midseason Rumble. Where on Friday they'll host 5-4 Cal at 10 a.m. and 5-4 Oregon at 2 p.m. And then on Saturday that's Friday there, that first one. And then for Saturday they'll host 5-3 Grand Canyon at noon, and then at 4 p.m. 9-1 LSU. So the final home stretch before playing the rest of the season away from Merle Norman Stadium. Move on to lacrosse. We got a 16-4 win on Saturday at Arizona State. Reese Robinson led with 4 goals, and Ellie Thomas in the goal had 3 saves and 14 goals allowed and played the entire game. So USC struck first and then got way ahead before having to fend off an ASU comeback. USC sits at 4-2, and it seems like Thomas has the edge over Charlotte Morton in the goal, who did not play against the Sun Devils. So up next, the Trojans come back home for their final non-conference games, or at least we'll have one later in the year, but before conference play begins, it's like really the final week of non-conference. So USC will host 1-3 San Diego State on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Big Ten Plus, and then 1-4 Niagara will come to Rawlinson on Sunday at 1 p.m., and that will also be watched on Big Ten Plus. It's the final non-conference games before conference play begins. So women's water polo is third, looking at a third rank in the country. Got a 16-6 win on Friday. So Emily Osmus, Ava Stryker, and Rachel Gazaniga led with 3 goals each, and Lauren Schneider had 2 saves and 3 goals playing the first quarter, and then Anna Reed had 10 saves and 3 goals allowed in the last 3 quarters of the game. So USC took command early and didn't look back. See what happens with that goal. Who's really going to get the edge in the cage there? So USC now sits at 13-2 on the year and 2-0 in conference play. So I imagine they'll probably stay at number 3. And then up next is the Convergence tournament that'll be in Claremont on Friday and Saturday. This weekend hosted by Pomona Pitzer, so opponents will be revealed later this week. I'll talk about it all next week. So swim and dive is so men's swim and dive had their Big Ten championships and placed 7th out of 9th, and then women also competing in the SMU Last Chance meet in Dallas from Thursday through Saturday as well. So up next for both teams will just be diving with the Zone E Diving Championships. They'll be in Flagstaff, Arizona from February 9th through 11th. So an opportunity for USC divers to position themselves well for the postseason. Move on to track and field, where USC got 6 indoor individual events indoors in the Big Ten Indoor Championships from February 26th to 28th. Women finished 3rd with 81 points. Men finished 6th with 44. So up next are the NCAA Indoor Championships in Fayetteville, Arkansas. That'll be March 13th and 14th. So the Indoor Championships are on, and 2 questions I have for this year are, can the women improve on the 3rd place finish from last year, and can the men repeat as national champions? We will find out in Fayetteville on March 13th and 14th. Rowing, meanwhile, has their official start to their season on Friday when they face UCLA at Marina del Rey. So I think the Bruins host the rivalry meet duel this year. So excited for that one, and best luck to head coach Kelsey Shadoin and her rowing squad. Men's tennis, meanwhile, took part in the M15 Naples 15K in Naples. That was from February 23rd through March 1st. And then also had Branko Duric and Andrea Casanova win the Pac Coast doubles in La Jolla. That was from February 26th through March 1st. And with their dual, while those don't count towards their dual record, they do sit at 8-3 as they get ready for Big Ten play. And that'll be at 4-5 Purdue on Friday at 3 p.m. and then at 6-3 Indiana on Sunday at 9 a.m. So it's the start of Big Ten play for men's tennis. Then finally for women's tennis, they lost 6-1 at UCLA on February 27th. UCLA got the doubles point. Only Eugenia Zozaya won her singles match. So up next is USC heads to 9-4 Minnesota to start Big Ten play. That'll be on Friday at 2 p.m. and then at 7-2 Wisconsin on Sunday at 10 a.m. So it's the start of Big Ten play for both teams. So finally, we got a couple questions this week. So I'm going to answer those now. Got one last week pretty early on. Wasn't able to answer it since I recorded really early. So this one is from official underscore Neek. So artist Unique, who I'm a good friends with, family friend, asked me question: what's your projection for Makai Lemon and NFL? So I wasn't able to get to it quite last week, so I'll ask him now, especially after the combine. I think Makai Lemon has a shot to go really high. I think it's like he's shown the potential. He won the Bolitnikoff. You don't win that by accident. And so I think really he's got, a lot of potential. And I think any team that can get him would be super lucky to have him. So, I mean, I think he could go pretty high. I mean, you just never know sometimes, but, he's always been pretty high on radar. So it would not surprise me if he, went high. Or might go a little bit lower, but it wouldn't surprise me if he goes pretty high up in the draft. So, obviously, super excited for him and wishing him the best. Then my final question I got was from Cobra Kai Williams. Hope I'm saying that right. At MTV Lope Island. So he asked thoughts on Chad Baker-Mazara leaving USC. So he asked me that on X. So yeah, you can ask me questions. I post a question box on my Instagram page as well as my X. I put up a post about that. So Chad Baker-Mazara, I'm kind of mixed on it because on the one hand, it's like he was super great all year. Like there was no denying it. It was like leading scorer. But on the other, it's like if he was, if it was reaching a point where, at least the way I've been reading that, it's messing with, the team culture, maybe you do got to make a change. So I'm kind of mixed on it personally, in part because as a player, he's great. But at the same time, this isn't his first time he's been kicked off a team. When he was at San Diego State, I think his second year of college, he got kicked off the Aztecs for just, poor academic performance, like not even like showing up to tutors. My dad went to San Diego State, so he remembers Baker-Mazara very well. So I think that, just when that comes up, it's just, if someone, no matter how good they are, if they're not being a team player, then I guess maybe you do got to let them go. So if if Eric Musselman thinks it's gonna help the team, I support the decision, but it's definitely tough to go. I mean, I've never had bad interaction with the guy. It's always kind of character. I mean, he's Chad. There's literally no better way to describe him. As the news broke yesterday, he was off the team. We are all talking about, it was, interesting, but he's Chad. Like, that's the only way we know how to describe him. So I hope that answers your question there. So obviously, with the fact that I made it to a couple games, last week I went 0-2 at the games I've made it to. So that puts me at 46, 17-1 this school year and 357, 136 and 1 all time. So obviously I'm going back to Virginia, so not sure what my next plans are, but the best way to know what I'll be at is if I post a game day graphic on my Instagram story. That means I will be in attendance at that game. So be sure to, obviously follow me there. Be sure to check out Voice of College Football every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And be sure to, follow me on social media, keep up with me and everything that I'm doing. And the podcast is not going away. Obviously, I'm, back home in California, not in my usual setup. Just obviously I just kind of do things a bit temporary, just given a bit of chaos, everything going on, but not going to obviously make sure I do the weekly Monday show. So that's going to do it for us here on Behind the Caution Tape. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see y'all next week and fight on.